More than 20,000 condos are completing in 2025 and 2026. And they're just not only completing, they're completing in the worst possible time ever. All right, so the inventory is high, the buyer confidence is low, and we already see a huge disaster when it comes to condo market. So let's dive into it. Reset expectation. More people think that housing problem starts when prices crash, but that's not what is happening here. This is happening before any major crash during the closing phase. And this is very important to note because people think the crash just happens when prices are falling and there's a pinpoint reason, one reason only. However, this particular issue is definitely much deeper, and there are definitely more issues tied to this. Are experiencing something completely different. They didn't even take the keys yet and they're in trouble. They have so many steps in order to gain possession of that particular condo, never mind getting rid of their debt and analyzing the situation. Think about that for a second. Like, they didn't even get to the point where they can make a decision, right? And people ask me, well, what's the worst that can happen? Well, there's so many things that could happen. One is you're taking possession of something that's worth significantly less than what you paid for. Second, you were pre-approved probably years ago. Now you have to requalify, right? A bank has to requalify. Third, maybe you have to come up with a deposit. Maybe you have to come up with the difference of equity because the appraisal came in extremely soft, right? Then, in order to title to be transferred to your name, right? Like sometimes takes months, 6 months, 9 months. I've seen over a year by the time a tower, right? So what happens in between? You're paying rent, right? By the time you take possession. Some contracts or agreements don't allow you actually to lease your property in that transitioning phase. Then issues like the HST. Did you buy it for yourself or did you buy it to flip? Most scenarios, people are buying it to flip and you have to pay HST on that. So you see what I'm saying? So it's the worst possible time. So we'll get into something else that I have been saying for years and years, how condo market can impact the rest of real estate, the freehold homes. So we'll get into that in a second. So completion wave, 20,000 plus condos across GTA, one of the largest waves in years. This is the biggest supply wave in GTA, what we have seen in years, right? So another question that I get asked all the time. So if you are claiming and saying and yelling and you're being persistent about this sky falling and recession and prices and all of that stuff. I was even saying this even before all of this, right? Now, like, some things are exposed. However, think about it for a second. People are driving, right? Stuck in traffic. Gardner, 401, 427, you name it. Wherever they turn, they see a crane. And they say, well, I don't know. Is it really that bad? Think about it for a second. Is it really that bad? Because there are cranes everywhere. Everybody's building, they're investing, they're this. Hold on a second. Hold on a second. Pause and think. All of these cranes were scheduled years ago. Years and years ago. Deposits were taken and these sales centers were selling years ago. And now these projects, broke the ground, or you see them grow in height. So that's the difference, right? Today, there's rarely anything being started. There's rarely anything being sold. So we will see what will happen. And then people say, well, okay, so if the inventory is kind of in trouble, right, of the new builds, that means we will have a problem with the inventory down the road and the prices will skyrocket. Well, not really, because our inventory today, it will take years and years to clear the inventory that we already have, right? So the best case scenario, in my opinion, we will see a softer landing maybe than expected, which I highly doubt, right? Because even with this wave of 20,000 plus units, with already the units that we have, it's going to be a catastrophe. And we're already in a catastrophe already. So prices are down from the peak easily 15 to 25%, sometimes even 35%, depending on the deal, how it's structured, and what is it? Is it bankruptcy? Is it people are trying to sell it because they have to? So like I have seen deals go under peak value by 35%. Okay, so not every deal, of course, but I have seen that, right? So further looking further, so sales are down by 50%, right? By 50%, buyers are definitely stepping back, prices are down, and the activity is changing everything. Inventory pressure, decision point, risk of defaulting, and assistant pressure, definitely. So taking all of that into consideration is that, at the time of that nonsense, of the peak, of the FOMO, fear of missing out, I have seen that people were taking, HELOCs and line of credits, and they were borrowing money against their current assets, which is usually freehold assets or assets that, don't apply to condos. And they were investing in condos, which means now they tied their future, right, condo, pre-con, to their existing freehold. You don't hear many scenarios like that because obviously people don't want to disclose that, right? Like people not gonna knock on your door and say, hey, look, I'm in trouble, or hoping for the best, but I made a wrong decision, or I'm down like 300K or stuff like that, right? People will not disclose stuff like that, nor they have to. But I'm just telling you, there's a lot of pressure everywhere now. And we see segments, the freehold segments, that few years ago, if you go back to my videos from a few years ago, you'll see I was mentioning the same thing. We will get to a point in freehold real estate, right? Detached homes, townhomes, semis, you name it, right? Like we will see price reductions. It is not as stable as people might think, but everybody can do their own due diligence, watch videos like this, educate themselves, and do the right decisions for themselves and their family. So I hope you gain some value out of this video. Please like, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.